Hey guys, it's Logan, and today I'm going to be telling you guys my top 25 favorite roller coasters I've ever ridden. I haven't made one of these ranking videos in over a year and a half, and a ton of people have been asking me to make another one. So this is probably going to be my last ranking video I ever make. And to be honest, I don't really enjoy making these videos because my opinions change all the time. And a ton of people get really upset when they don't agree, which I think is kind of stupid. But if you like these ranking videos, enjoy this one while it lasts, because this is going to be my last one. So there's three things to keep in mind when you're watching this. Number one, these are only coasters I have ridden, not in the world. I don't rank or criticize coasters I haven't ridden. So for example, Ejinaika is not going to be on this list, Takabisha is not going to be on this list, Mindbender, all those other coasters, because I haven't ridden them. And number two, look at this word right here. It says favorite, not best. There's no such thing as a better roller coaster. I like different things than you do. So these are just genuinely my favorites and what I think about them. And to be honest, some of these opinions are based off of the experience I had that day. Like, riding a coaster with my best friends on a beautiful day gives me a better memory than riding something in the freezing cold by myself. Number three, I love all of these coasters on this list. I don't hate any of them. I've ridden well over 500 coasters, so every single coaster on this list is within my top 5%. So please don't go, oh my gosh, why do you hate that coaster? I don't. I love all of them. I just have different opinions than anyone in the world. So with that said, let's get right into it. Number 25 is Ghost Rider at Knott's Berry Farm. The last time I rode this was Coaster Kids Day at Knott's Berry Farm. And this is so much better from the first time I rode it in 2016. Like, this thing is just straight up messed up. Like, this thing is insane. No, it doesn't have that much airtime or anything, but it just straight up throws you around. Like, the very last helix is literally, like, one of the most insane laterals I've ever experienced. Like, it doesn't even feel like it's banked or anything. And the ride is just overall so much fun. Like, I could ride this, like, 50 times and I'd be good. I just love this ride so much. Number 24 is The Beast at Kings Island. I know, I don't think this has been on any of my top 25s, but just the more I ride it, the more I figure out it's just so fun to ride. Like, the fact that it's, like, the longest coaster in North America, I don't know why, that just adds to the fun factor for it. Like, going out into the woods, has some pretty good laterals as well, and the double helix, that thing just never gets old. And it's just always fun to ride with your friends. And plus, I got stuck on it for 15 minutes, so that was fun. But yeah, definitely recommend this ride. I don't think it gets talked about enough. Number 23 is Raven. And as you continue watching this video, you'll probably be able to tell that I've started to like more rougher wooden coasters now. And this one is definitely one of them. This one definitely beats you around. It's basically a shorter version of Beast. I rode this during Hollywood Nights in June of this year, and I rode this with some awesome people like Callie, Billy, Michael, Mackenzie, and so many other people. We rode this so many times. It was just an amazing time. The airtime is awesome. The laterals are crazy, and an amazing night ride as well. Definitely recommend it. And at the very same park, not too far away, number 22 is Legend at Holiday World. It's basically a bigger version of Raven. It beats you up even more, even crazier airtime, more awesome laterals. And one of the best experiences I've ever had was at Hollywood Nights when we did the Water Cup Challenge, which was an event held by the people at Holiday World. It's where you have a cup of water and you try to keep as much water in it as possible. We didn't win, but it was still an incredible experience. And it's just so much fun. Like, I can ride this several times. Some people probably can't, but I just love these types of coasters. Number 21 is King Knott at Six Flags Great Adventure. And I obviously don't like this as much as Top Thrill Dragster. But something cool about this, like, you know, it's the tallest roller coaster in the world. It's world famous. A ton of people know what this is. And I don't know why, but the over-the-shoulder restraints and the launch being more rattly, I feel like that adds to the intensity. Like, I feel like it's more intense than Dragster. I just don't like it as much. But a front row night ride on this thing is just absolutely incredible. The airtime on it, on the top hat, is just so cool. The view is really good, even though there's not that much to see. It's just so cool being that high. And you know, if you really like long coaster rides, this one isn't for you. But if you're really into those short bursts of insane intensity, this ride is for you. Love this ride. So number 20 is my first international coaster on this list. It is Ice Speed at Mirabilandia in Italy. And if you watched my video from Mirabilandia, it probably seemed like I didn't like the ride that much. But it was just an extremely hot day, and that kind of ruined the experience a little bit. But like the more I rode it, it just kind of grew on me. Like, it's just so intense. The transitions are extremely snappy. Yeah, it does have the hard restraints, but I just feel like that adds to the intensity for some reason. Like, I feel like if it had lap bars, it wouldn't be as fun, but that's probably just me. The top hat is really good. All of the inversions are really snappy, and it's just so fun to ride over and over and over again, which you can't really do because it broke down twice when we were there, but still, try to get on this ride when you can. Number 19 is Magnum XL 200 at Cedar Point. And when I first rode this coaster when I was 10 years old, I did not like this ride at all, and I famously said, this ride kicked me in the nuts, even though it really didn't. I just really hated it that much. But as I rode it more and more, I just fell in love with it. The airtime is really just out of this world, and it's just really bumpy, and I'm starting to really like that now. But like the return trip to the station, that never gets old. It just leaves bruises on your thighs, and I absolutely love that. I've probably ridden this like 20 times this year, and I've loved every single one of those rides. So number 18 is the coaster where I famously called Chad Phineas and sang with Taylor on it. Number 18 is Wildfire at Kolmården Zoo in Sweden. And yes, you heard that right. This coaster is in a zoo. It's all the way in the back of it. You have to walk like what seems like 5 miles to it, but it's really worth that walk. And plus the zoo is really cool too. But up until recently when I rode Cornwall Express, I rode this more times in one day than I ever have before. 20 times. And I loved every single one of those rides. I just kept marathoning it the whole day because that was just basically all to do, really. And this ride is just such an amazing experience. If you ever are in Sweden, make sure to spare some time to stop by here because it's a really cool experience to ride Wildfire and to experience the zoo as well. And number 17, trigger alert to some of you guys. You'll probably get really mad, but I honestly don't really care. It's Steel Vengeance at Cedar Point. And no, I do not hate this coaster. I said it at the beginning of the video. I absolutely love this ride. But when I first rode this, it was my number 1. But that's probably because of all the hype built up to it. And you know, there's just some coasters that you kind of get tired of. And unfortunately, this is one of them. But there's still some things I really love about this ride. Like the airtime is spectacular, and the view of Lake Erie is absolutely beautiful, and the ride overall is just mesmerizing to watch. And just watching it go through the inversions and the airtime hills, I just always love watching that. But whenever I'm at Cedar Point, I would always try to ride it when I can. But there's just 16 other coasters on this list that I would rather ride if I had to choose. But I still love this ride and recommend it to anyone who's coming in from really any place, because this ride is really worth it. Number 16 is a coaster legit like 500 feet away from the last coaster. Number 16 is Maverick, also at Cedar Point. And I've probably ridden this coaster like well over 50 times. But this ride is just flat out incredible and so intense. The drop is just so whippy and like just catches you off guard no matter how many times you've ridden it. The transitions are really aggressive. All the airtime just gets you flying. And the second launch, like I can still like hear the sounds in that tunnel ringing in my ear like throughout the day because I've ridden this so many times. And one of my favorite experiences on this one, I rode this 7 times in a row without getting off and during Coastermania ERT. And I was pretty much dead after that, but it was really worth it. I just love this ride so much. And number 15, the third RMC on this list, is Outlaw Run at Silver Dollar City. And I just recently rode this thing in July, and it is so much better than I remember. I mean, it's a bit rattly for an RMC, but that just adds to the experience. Like, The first inversion at the beginning, I don't even know what that's called, but that's just such a unique element. And the twisted airtime hill throws you out of your seat and gives you some good laterals at the same time. And the wave turn and the double barrel roll at the end, those are just all some really awesome elements. And this kind of seems like a basic RMC when you think about it, but when you ride it, it definitely does not feel like one. And this ride is just out of this world, and you should definitely ride it whenever you're in the area. Number 14 is Phantom's Revenge at Kennywood. And if you love airtime, this is definitely your coaster. And this isn't an RMC or an Intamin, it's actually a Morgan Hyper. And they did an absolutely amazing job refurbishing this thing when it was built by Aerodynamics. But if you have some pain in your back, this will definitely make it worse because the airtime is so strong. But something I love about this, like the airtime is crazy, but it's like not too intense, so you can easily ride this like 20 times and get a kick out of it. Like, it just straight up throws you around, and it's incredibly smooth as well, so it doesn't give you a headache. Yeah, it is a short ride, but it packs a lot within that short duration. Number 13 is Fear 325 at Carowinds. And I feel kind of bad for putting this so low because this really is the definition of a pure fun coaster. In the first half of the ride, you're just blasting through it, just blasting through the whole park. And then in the second half, you have these really good airtime hills that you think will give just a little bit of floater. No, these are like borderline ejector hills. Like, those are always fun. And especially a night ride on this thing, and if you're with some of your best friends, which is what I did, it'll be one of the most memorable things you have ever done. And it sure is one of the most memorable things for me as well. Such an incredible ride. Number 12 is Twisted Timbers at King's Dominion. And one of the main reasons I like this thing over Steel Vengeance, it just feels way more aggressive and just throws you around more. And my first rides on this thing were night rides. And then I rode this thing after sunrise. And that was actually exactly a year ago today as of when I'm recording this video. And that was just an awesome experience riding it with some of my best friends. And all the elements on this thing are really just so much fun. Like the 3 airtime hills back to back to back. They just throw you out of your seat. The trick track double up is just really aggressive. And the inversions are pretty good too. And it's extremely re-rideable, smooth. There's pretty much nothing wrong with this ride. Number 11 is Storm Chaser at Kentucky Kingdom. And this ride is basically Twisted Timbers' intensity times 12. Like, ever since 2017, it's just gone so much faster than when I first rode it in 2016. That's why I ranked it so low in my top 9 favorite RMCs a couple of years back. But this ride is so aggressive, like, it's not okay. All of the airtime and inversions are just so incredibly intense and honestly will wear you out. But that's just something I love about coasters, and this ride is definitely one of them. And also, shout out to Kentucky Kingdom for all the support. I love all of you guys, and I really appreciate it. And now for my top 10. Number 10 is Twisted Colossus at Six Flags Magic Mountain. I've probably been to that park like 6 times now, and I'm extremely thankful for the opportunity to have done that. But I feel like this ride just gets better and better every single time. And I know I said this was my number 3 when I got off in March of this year. And yeah, I stuck with that opinion for like 2 months, but I was a little coaster drunk, but whatever, it's still in my top 10. And this ride does feel really unique. Like the only Mobius Loop RMC, I believe, in the world. And like the Top Gun stall and the high five element, those are all just really fun elements. And plus the drop in the airtime in between, those just wear you out, just like Storm Chaser. It's basically just a longer version of Storm Chaser, and that's why I love this ride so much. Number 9 is Expedition G-Force at HersheyPark in Germany. And this ride is really world famous. It's been ranked number 1 in the world for so many years. And I understand the reason why. This ride is not only super fun, but also incredibly intense. The airtime is just insane. And the bank turns really just never get old. And plus, the people at Holiday Park were really supportive. Like, when they closed the park and they should have made us get off, they let us ride 2 more times because they knew most of the people in our group were from America. And that really just adds to the experience. And a lot of people compare this ride to Millennium Force. It's so much better than Millennium Force. Like, this honestly is pretty much worth the trip to Germany to ride this thing. Number 8 is Sky Rush at HersheyPark in Pennsylvania. And it seemed like I hated this the last time I rode it in 2017. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized this thing is insane. And all the people who hate this ride hate it because of the restraints. But if you don't focus on the restraints, you really start to love this ride. The airtime is just flat out messed up. And it's just incredibly rattly and intense. It just feels like the ride is out of control. It feels like something straight out of China. And that's why I love this ride so much. Number 7 is El Toro at Six Flags Great Adventure, the first intimate prefabricated wooden coaster I have ever ridden, and this is another one of those coasters where it really wears you out if you try to marathon it, and that's not a very good idea. And I learned that the hard way because this thing is insane, especially the twister section at the end. That just gives you a headache, but it's just a really good headache, and plus the airtime in the beginning and the drop is just incredible. And I haven't gotten a night ride on this thing, but I've heard that was an incredible experience, and I would love to experience that someday. But I really do recommend this. It's such an icon in the park, and I completely understand why, because the ride is so amazing. Number 6 is Carowinds at Hansa Park in Germany. And I do have friends in Germany who say that's how you pronounce it, so that's just how I'm going to go with it. But first of all, this is probably the most incredibly themed coaster I have ever ridden. Also, probably the second most intense coaster I've ever ridden. Like, it's just such a beautiful coaster to look at, and it's massive. Like, it's well over 200 feet. Like, the lift hill is unique, but it's not even close to the best part of the ride. Like, the queue has like 2 pre-shows, and one of these pre-shows is for the bins, and plus the row selection. I don't think there's any coaster that does that other than Carowinds, and that's why I love it so much. Like, the first element after the lift hill, I don't even know what you call it, the non-inverted sea serpent roll or something like that, but the airtime hill, like towards the middle of the ride, that has some insane ejector. And yeah, it's hard to marathon and kind of gives you a headache, but it's just an incredible experience even if you just ride it once. Number 5 is Lightning Rod at Dollywood, and this is by far my favorite RMC I've ever ridden. And if you've ridden this coaster, you could probably understand why. And plus, I just love taking people who haven't ridden this ride on this because it just blows their mind, because it's just flat out incredible. It uses the terrain really well. Like, the lift hill launch, yeah, it's pretty cool, but it's also not even close to the best part of the ride. The airtime towards the middle of the ride, and plus the quad down, is just incredible. The launch did get a little slower, but it did not change how incredible this ride is. Like, I was pretty much crying the first time I rode it, because I just love this thing so much, and you should absolutely ride it when you're in Tennessee. Number 4 is Intimidator through a Vibe at King's Dominion, and you've heard so many people say this is one of the most intense coasters in the world, and I 100% agree with that statement. Like, the first turn, I have never not grayed out on that. It's basically impossible, so like, just don't even try. It's not worth it. But a front row night ride on this thing, oh my gosh, probably one of the best night rides I've ever had. And plus, the last time I rode it actually had a lot of ejector airtime, which I do not remember having the first time I rode it. And the first time I rode it, I didn't really like the ride that much because it was so intense. All the turns are extremely snappy, and it's not the longest ride in the world, but all the elements in between are extremely well done. Number 3 is Top Thrill Dragster at Cedar Point. And a lot of people wouldn't rank this coaster as high as I do because it's such a short ride. And plus, sometimes you have to wait hours for those 17 seconds. But like I said before, if you're into those short bursts of just insane intensity, then this ride is absolutely for you. And this is honestly the only coaster that every time I ride it, I like it just as much as the first time I ride it because it just blows me away every single time. I just love the feeling of that acceleration on the launch. Not everyone loves that feeling, but I definitely do. Shooting straight up and straight down just gives you an extreme adrenaline rush, and the view on the top is just absolutely beautiful. And when you get it off, everyone on the brake run is like, oh my gosh, what just happened? And that's just amazing to watch, especially because I get that feeling every single time as well. Number 2 is X2 at Six Flags Magic Mountain. And something I love about this ride is it's probably the most fun I've ever had on a coaster. And plus, it's extremely intense, but at the same time, it's not. Like, it's just so bizarre. Like, you just have no idea what you're feeling, especially if you ride it in the back row. That drop just catches you by surprise, and it definitely caught me by surprise the first time I rode that thing in the back row. And like the Raven turn and just all the rotations are just absolutely out of this world. And plus, if you ride in the back row, you get some pretty good sustained ejector on the last Raven turn. But you know, the people who designed this really tried to make something unique and special, and they absolutely achieved that. And you know, there's a ton of other 4D coasters out there, but none of the ones I've ridden have come even close to this because it's just the most unique one I've ever ridden. And I've heard Eugenica is way better, so I'm terrified to experience that. But I just still love this ride so much, and I just love to ride it so many times in a row. And number 1, I've already said this in a video before, it shouldn't be too much of a surprise for you guys. It is Voyage at Holiday World in Indiana. And this ride basically combines everything I love in a coaster. It has crazy ejector, but also airtime where you just feel like you're floating. And that's probably my favorite kind of airtime. It's incredibly intense. It's an amazing night ride, insane laterals, and I love it more every single time I ride it. And the last few times I rode it, it really just beat me up. Like, I had to take a break. But whenever I get that feeling, I don't know why, it just makes me love a coaster so much more. And plus, riding this during Hollywood nights with some of my favorite people I have ever met really did add to the experience as well. And if I had to choose only one coaster to ride next year, and that was the only coaster I rode, Voyage at Holiday World would be that coaster. So that's it. Those are my top 25 favorite roller coasters I have ever ridden. If you want to let me know your favorites in the comments, you can. And I hope you have an amazing day, and I hope all of you get the chance to ride one of these coasters in the future. Have an amazing day, and be brave and ride on.